Yo, Zaunitas! Sejam muito bem-vindos ao Laboratório de Zaun, sejam muito bem-vindos a mais um vídeo aqui no canal. E hoje eu tenho grandes novidades para vocês. A Riot acabou de revelar que vai ter grandes mudanças no ranqueado. Vai ter duas novas ligas, né? Vai ter a Liga Ferro e a Liga Grão-Mestre. Isso vai ser legal pra caramba, vai ser muito diferente a próxima temporada. E uma coisa legal, cara, eu pude conversar com o Rioter que tá fazendo essas mudanças, né? A Riot, ela me deu essa oportunidade de conversar com o Sep Magic e eu pude gravar e fazer um vídeo aqui pra vocês. Então, agora eu vou soltar aqui pra você a entrevista com todas as mudanças, várias perguntas, que inclusive muitas de vocês que me mandaram, tá, clã? Então, dá uma olhada no vídeo, não esquece de deixar o gostei pra apoiar o canal do Laboratório e pode ter certeza que esse foi o melhor vídeo que eu coloquei aqui na história desse canal e eu tô muito animado de poder compartilhar com vocês. Bom, clã, muito obrigado e agora fica aí com o vídeo. So, let's get started. Can I ask you my first question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So let's go. Well, what exactly is the new ranked system in League of Legends and why to change it right now?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'll kind of zoom out to kind of everything we're changing, but I'll start from why. So when we decided to change the system, we kind of went from a couple different angles. On one hand, we were considering things like what are players saying right now is really painful for them. And then from the other side, we were looking at things like, well, how can we make the system better overall, right? And so when we looked at it from both of those points of view, we came up with a couple sort of like problems and solutions to those problems. One of the first problems was that right now, the ranked season is really long, and players are pretty much just playing to win games for about 9 months. And so what happens is when they plateau, like when they hit a sort of a skill ceiling, oftentimes they'll just give up. And sometimes that's because they don't get good feedback that they're improving. And other times it's because they just don't have any meaningful challenge to kind of pursue. And we're trying to solve those problems through the changes that we're making to tiers and divisions, but also to some extent with position ranks. The other problems are things like players don't feel very engaged by the system, so they'll play only at the end of the year, and they'll just try to get the ranked rewards. And so for those players, we're doing more of the like splits and split-based rewards. There are still other players who just have bad placements experiences, and so they just stop playing right after that. And for those players, we're revamping placements, trying to make it feel way better and more transparent. And then finally, there are a bunch of players who otherwise actually play really broadly. They play lots of positions and champions, but when they go into ranked, they specialize really hard because that's the only way that they can rank up. And so for those players, one of the things we want to do is we want to make ranked more rewarding if you're actually like a generalist player or you want to branch out and learn and get better, right? So finding new ways to test your skills in ranked other than just win games, get a single rank up, get rewards at the end of the season. So that's like the high level.
Colocar rank para cada função no League não vai aumentar o estresse nos jogadores que caem no preenchimento automático e aumentar o número de trolls?
We hope that the opposite will happen, and I'll tell you why. For one of the reasons why I think players are more inclined to troll in an autofill game or less tryhard is because matchmaking, they feel like matchmaking is basically not fair. They feel like if I got autofilled, I'm destined to lose that game, right? And to some extent, not completely, that's somewhat true, right? When you're a support main and you're in platinum and we autofill you to top lane or whatever, you're not as good at top, so you're probably more likely to lose that game, and that makes you feel super discouraged and you don't even want to try, you just kind of give up. We're hoping that by doing positional matchmaking, we'll actually put you in more fair games to begin with. And that hopefully means that you'll feel like, okay, I have a chance. Maybe I didn't want to play this position, but I do feel like if I play really well at my skill for top lane, I'll be able to win. And I think that's what we're trying to accomplish. I think with position ranks, hopefully other things that will help for this are losing shouldn't hurt your other positions that much unless you're really losing a lot. So imagine, again, I main support, right? I'm in platinum. For that game that I get top lane, if I lose, hopefully it's not hurting my support rank that much. And if I win, then I'll actually get bonus LP for support anyway, so that'll feel really good. And I'll get LP for top, so that feels really good. And so like we're hoping that the combination of those things will make it a little bit better.
Agora um jogador vai ser multiplicado por 5 no ranqueado, afinal ele pode ter um rank separado para cada função. Isso não vai desbalancear o sistema de liga ou pareamento?
Okay, so you're like, hey, if we make 5, potentially you have up to 5 entries on the ladder, doesn't that like mess everything up? Is that your question?
Yes, like 5 silver or 5 diamond or 5 challenger.
Yeah, so it'll work slightly differently. For matchmaking, we'll use whatever MMR that for the position you're playing, essentially. So let's say, like when we're doing matchmaking, we'll say, okay, you're a gold player in top lane. If you play top, then we'll use that gold MMR for top. If you end up getting autofilled, we'll autofill you to an appropriate game. So maybe that's a gold game, maybe it's a silver game. When I think about the ladder itself, the way that'll work is a little bit different from what you described. So the actual ladder will be more like a ladder per position. It's not quite that, but you can kind of think of it that way. And so rather than there being sort of like you having 5 spots in diamond, it'll be more like you have a spot in diamond top, you have a spot in diamond mid, a spot in diamond jungle, etc. And in particular, this shouldn't be an issue in Master and Challenger because when you get to Master and above, your ranks actually will collapse into a single rank like today, and you'll be able to just climb a single Challenger ladder or whatever. And the reason we ended up doing that was because the kinds of skills that you actually need to be a successful player in Challenger, things like macro play or vision or team fighting skills or whatever, a lot of those are highly transferable to all the other positions.
Yes.
Whereas when you're at lower skill, maybe, for example, you can get to gold in top lane without really knowing how to ward that well or whatever, but you can't be a support player without knowing how to ward or things like that.
Vocês disseram que estavam muito insatisfeitos com bronze, prata e diamante porque são ligas que abrangem muito MMR e um jogador pode melhorar muito seu MMR, mas continuar no prata, com a sensação de que não saiu do lugar. Vocês pretendem tornar o MMR mais claro para os jogadores nessa temporada?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We get this a lot in a slightly different way where people are like, hey, why can't I just see my MMR? Like that would be a better solution. And there are a couple reasons why we don't do that. I'll talk about a few of them. One of the biggest reasons that we don't show MMR is that for a lot of competitive players, I mean, even players who are just hardcore ranked players, it adds just a ton of anxiety, right? It's this number that's changing every single game that doesn't really have any context. It's just, it's like 1200. Like, what does that mean, right? And a lot of players can fall into this kind of psychological trap of they see the number going down and they feel like, oh, I'm just losing all this MMR. It feels so bad. And that's a really kind of crappy feeling. By contrast, our rank system does have some of those problems in that, you can lose LP or whatever, but our rank system actually can also kind of protect you, right? When you get to the bottom of a tier, like you get to 0 LP, Diamond 5 or whatever, you're like a little bit protected. It's not necessarily the case that the second you lose the next game, it's going to put you into platinum or anything like that. And so it's kind of nice in that sense. One of the other things, though, is with MMR, players tend to focus on those tiny changes in MMR rather than actually improving. And on top of that, it's way harder to actually compare two players. So like, what does it mean that you're 1300 and I'm 1350, right? Whereas if you tell me that you're gold and I'm platinum, like that's way easier for me to kind of comprehend. And I think a final thing about why the rank system is sort of superior in terms of like to showing MMR would be MMR is a fairly flat experience. There aren't a lot of ups and downs. It's just like, okay, you get a number at the end of each game and you feel like you're getting better or not. By contrast, as sucky sometimes as things like promo series can feel, they actually do add some, I don't know, texture to the rank system. It makes you feel like there are those moments where you have to go really hard and prove yourself, and then there are moments where you're a little bit more safe, and you're not worried about being demoted, or you're not worried about like getting to that next division. So I think like those are a lot of the reasons why the rank system as a whole is a really good solution instead of MMR. But to your point, one of the things that's really sucky is when the relationship between MMR and ranking gets out of whack, and I think it is right now, you end up with those situations like you described where, as a player, I might feel like I got much better, but the rank system is telling me that I'm still exactly the same, right? The analogy that I like to use is, if I'm a player in bronze today, there are a lot of players in bronze. Let's say there's 30% of all players are in bronze. I think it might actually, it's somewhere around there. And let's say I'm toward the bottom of bronze. I could actually get a lot better. I could improve and actually now be better than almost all the bronze players, right? 30% of the population. But the system is still going to tell me I'm in bronze, which, like, as a player, you're like, wait, why is it so hard to get out of this? I've improved so much. I'm trying so hard, but I'm still bronze. And so when we talk about adding new tiers to the system and kind of recalibrating things, like rebalancing things a little bit, it's more about giving those players the feedback that when they are improving in terms of their MMR, that they're also improving in terms of their rank. That's kind of a long answer, but hopefully that made sense.
Yes, yes. Você poderia nos dizer o nome dessas ligas?
Yeah, sure. So I think at the top it's a little bit easier to talk about. We thought about a bunch of different ideas. We thought about putting a tier above diamond but below master. We thought about putting one above platinum but below diamond. Ultimately, what we decided to do was, when we looked at diamond and master tier specifically, it looked like there were a lot of opportunities to kind of rebalance the population there so that it felt a lot better. And so we decided ultimately to put one above master. And so then the question really became, okay, well, what do we want to call that, right? We could change the names of all of those tiers, but players kind of have some expectations about what they mean today. Like, challenger sort of just means something to a lot of players right now, and if we had changed that just because we wanted to change the name, it might not make a lot of sense. So we decided to leave it there, and once we decided to not change the name of challenger, it made a lot more sense to just say, okay, well, master is fine, and grandmaster exists in other games as well, and grandmaster exists in outside of video games even, and so we just opted for that as the name. It made a lot of sense for us. At the bottom, what you might be wondering is like why we didn't call it wood tier or something.
Yes.
And we thought about it. Like, we talked, and several people on the team definitely wanted to call it wood. I think the thing is, it's really recognizable. Like, a lot of players know like wood tier, and it's kind of a joke. But the problem really was that it's used as an insult a lot, and it's not like those players who feel like they're stuck there need any more reason to feel bad about their skill or their accomplishments. And so like we basically opted for, hey, we don't want to like make jokes at those players, and we don't want to make them feel really bad because they're competing and they're trying to get better too. And so ultimately we were like, okay, iron makes more sense, and we went with that.
Eu sou main atirador e suporte, joguei com os dois e cheguei no pico de diamante com ambos, mas depois eu perdi muitas partidas como atirador. Quando eu voltar a jogar de suporte, eu vou estar no diamante ou as derrotas que eu tive vão influenciar o meu rank de suporte?
Here's kind of how this will play out. You have ADC and support both at diamond. You go to play ADC and you start losing a lot. Let's just say you're unlucky, because I'm sure you wouldn't troll or do anything bad, obviously. But you're unlucky and you lose a lot of games. What'll happen is, the more games you lose in sort of your off positions, the more you'll splash larger losses into your other positions. So let's say at first, as you start to lose ADC games, it's maybe, -3 to sorry, did I say ADC? Yeah, so it's like maybe -3 to support. And then, you've lost 5 games in a row. Maybe it's closer to like -8. and then you started losing like 10 games in a row, and it's like minus 15. Like it's increasing the more you lose. And so what'll happen is, as you fall down to gold on your ADC position, your support position will start to also get a lot of those losses and will eventually demote as well. I don't know exactly in this particular instance what the final outcome would be, but if I had to guess, I would say probably if you in ADC fell from diamond to gold and you didn't play support at all during that time, probably what would happen is your support rank, my best guess, would probably fall also to like low platinum or something like that. And so then when you go to play those positions again, hopefully you'll start winning more and you'll get those back to where they belong.
The opposite will happen too. Like, I'm very good at ADC, and then I start winning, and my support will go up too, right?
Yeah. We don't do so in terms of splashing for wins. They don't get like the splashing doesn't get larger the more you win or anything. That's only what applies to losses. But the splashing does apply, and so what'll happen is if you played ADC, your support rank will also be getting LP during that time. And what'll happen is you might actually splash LP to support that takes it to 100 LP, and you'll be eligible for promotion series, and you can go play that promotion series and rank up. So yeah, the splashing does work both ways and can help your other positions kind of catch up a little bit, because really at the end of the day, when we think about position ranks, it doesn't make sense for them to be completely delinked, right? It is definitely the case that if you go from being a gold top laner to a diamond top laner, then you're probably also better at other positions. There are maybe still skills in those positions that you don't have, and so you're still worse at them, but you're probably not like silver or whatever at them if you're diamond in any position, right? You're probably like plat or you're high gold or something like that. And so splashing is really meant to kind of help reinforce that idea that there are skills that are transferable across positions, and then there are skills that are specific to positions, and that's kind of the idea.
Vocês vão dividir a temporada em 3 splits, igual acontece em campeonatos oficiais? Como assim? Como isso vai funcionar?
Yeah, so you're talking about like breaking the season into 3 splits.
Yes.
Yeah. I think so when we were first thinking about splits, the reason that we were thinking about it was really in the context of what we were talking about previously, which is a lot of players will kind of finish their placements and they'll sort of just be done, or they won't feel like motivated to go keep playing. Or for a lot of players, maybe yourself included, they'll come in right at the end of the season and they'll try to grind as many games as they can to get the highest rank possible. And then they'll just end up feeling tired and burned out after that, because it feels bad to play hundreds of games of League just to, try to get to your peak rank or whatever. And so we were thinking like splits actually give better opportunities for you to kind of play consistently throughout the season and check in periodically and like reassess what your goals are without doing crazy things like we're not planning to reset your rank between splits, for example. Like that's not what this is about. It's more about the sort of reward cadence and the goal setting. And so the way that splits will work going forward is you will have roughly 3 splits a year is what we're thinking to start. There'll be about 3 months each. That may change, but that's where we're starting. And what'll happen is what will reset on each split is actually your reward progress. And so you'll be able to earn rewards by playing through split 1. Then that'll reset. There'll be new rewards for split 2. Then that'll reset, and there'll be new rewards for split 3. And so the players who kind of want to earn all the rewards will be the ones who are playing throughout all 3 splits. They don't have to play like hundreds of games or anything, but like they're checking in, they're playing all throughout the year. And we think that's like a way better feeling for a lot of players to kind of be able to play on and off throughout the entire year as opposed to just playing right at the end.
6 meses atrás, você fez uma postagem sobre o futuro das ranqueadas. Conforme vocês foram recebendo feedback dos jogadores, vocês mudaram algo no projeto ou ele continua a mesma coisa?
Dang, has it been that long? Oh man. Yeah, so I think that's a really interesting question. When we set out to work on ranked, one of the things that we figured out really early on was players care a lot about the rank system. And if we want to make changes to it, we need to be careful to make changes that players can understand why we're making them, and players can kind of come along on the journey with us, as opposed to just announcing a thing in November and then saying, okay, here's the new rank system, whatever. And so one of our goals when we kind of did the first article and video was actually to kind of just have a conversation, right? To your question, we wanted to hear what people had to say. We wanted people's feedback. We wanted people to tell us what they loved about it. And definitely we've gotten lots of that, so that's great. In terms of things that we have changed, yeah, actually there have been a couple like really big things that we changed directly as a result of player feedback. One of them is actually the concept of splashing, right? One of the concerns that we heard really early on from players was they were scared that, rightfully so, I think, that if the position ranks were totally standalone, that you might do these things where, okay, I'm going to go play support and I'm going to troll because I'm not a support player. I only care about my mid lane rank, so it's fine. I'll just go into these games and I'll make the experience really bad for those people. And that feels really bad. Like we definitely don't want that. It's not acceptable. And so one of the ways that we went about solving that was actually by introducing the concept of splashing, right? We said, cool, for whenever you win a game in any position, some of that LP will go to your other positions. And likewise, when you lose, some of that LP will be taken away from your other positions. And specifically, the additional thing that we did there to combat kind of the troll case is we said, also, depending on how many games you've lost in off positions recently, that splashing will be bigger, right? So the idea being, if you're a player who doesn't care about support, that's fine. But if you're actually losing all those games when you get autofilled, it's going to start hurting your main rank as well, because like you're making a bad experience for other people. And you could just be unlucky and you know, maybe you just lost those games coincidentally, which is okay. But like probably what it means if you're losing that many games in a row is like your skill actually isn't where we think it is. And so you probably should be dropped a little bit in your other positions as well to help make up for it. So that was one of the things that we changed. I think another thing that we changed, we initially didn't really have a concept of what would happen if players traded positions. We had thought about it, but we didn't think that it would be as big of a concern for players as it ended up being. And so when we saw that it was actually a big worry that people had, we added that idea of MMR linking, which is the concept that when we do matchmaking, we're not only doing matchmaking on the position that you queue for, but we're actually using sort of the information from your other positions to help inform that. And that means that we can do things like when you're trading a lot or trading with a duo partner, we can actually take all those MMRs and just tighten them together really tightly so that we're basically turning off positional matchmaking for you. And it helps avoid those abuse cases that players brought up that were totally legitimate. And we had thought about a lot of the abuse cases themselves, but it's hard sometimes to know how big of a deal they'll be to players until we kind of see the reaction. And honestly, putting out articles and videos and having folks like yourself deconstruct the system has actually really helped us to know how big of a deal a lot of those things are and then go fix them.
All right, so thank you very much. Seriously, that means a lot for us, all us Brazilians. Can you say something for the Brazilian audience?
Can I? Yeah, like, so one of the things when we look at the rank system, one of the audiences that we actually talk about a lot is the Brazilian audience, because we know that they are so hardcore and invested in ranked. And so honestly, like, having the opportunity to talk to you and also to be able to hear feedback from Brazilian players about what they love about this, what they hate, what they want us to change is going to continue to be super helpful moving forward into the preseason. Yeah, we're just like really grateful for the opportunity to work on this stuff, and we are listening. Like, we're constantly out there looking for feedback. And even when people like send tweets to me in other languages, like Spanish or Portuguese or whatever, I'm always like trying to find someone to translate them so I can understand. So yeah, we're listening as much as we can. And yeah, keep sending us the feedback, because we really need it to make the system as good as it can be, and hold us accountable, right? Like, we're trying to make an awesome system, and you guys want to play an awesome system. So yeah, that's what it's about for me.
You can count on us. Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Yeah, of course. Anytime.